mute myself.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. How's that? Can everybody see that?
We see it.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Beth Gneiser. That's how you say my last name is Gneiser, the G-N. So anyway, this talk is about being a human being in these crazy times. It helps sometimes not to take things too seriously, although we are in serious times, as many of you can relate. And things just seem to be getting heavier and heavier by the week. But this talk is about how we can try managing our head space and heart space and see if we can move into a better place. So take what works and let go of what doesn't. We are all in a different place. Some are up, some are down, some are sideways. It is essentially all food for thought. I'm also going to interweave the Enneagram into my talk as well, which is what I do, is teach the Enneagram, which is a personality typing system. So this talk is not about big emotions such as grief, trauma, depression, or abuse of any kind, but more about the day-to-day emotions that we encounter, such as anger, frustration, hurt, or sadness that may throw us off. This is not about politics or religion, so let's keep these subjects aside. I will talk about ways that help us move through these emotions and thoughts, maybe a little easier or with a little more grace. Being a human being isn't easy sometimes. Face it, people, we're complicated. So I'm going to share a few things I've learned throughout my life, and I'm thinking some of you will be able to relate and some of you may not. But I believe you may be able to share a tidbit of wisdom, if anything else. I would love to have an open conversation. So if you have a question or something to say, chime in, just unmute and interrupt me and we can address it. So I will leave a little time at the end for people to share maybe what resonates with you, or maybe ask a question or even share something that helps you get through each day. So many times I hear a talk and I may take one thing from it that I will remember that will help me in the coming days or longer. And I hope you can take something away from my today. So the overview is I'm going to talk a little bit about the Enneagram, and then I'm going to talk about my general philosophy of life. I would like to hear yours too. And I'll talk about 5 tools to get us through each day. So a little bit about the Enneagram. The Enneagram, as you know, is a fascinating personality typing system. There are 9 personality types in the system. And if you want to know more about that, let me know. But there are many nuances that are interesting about the Enneagram. So one is energy. All the types have a different level of energy. Some will run circles around you, and you may be the one that runs circles around other people. So we used to have a convenience store in Evergreen, and I had this employee named Gemma, and she was like in her 60s, and she was really slow. She was a cashier, and she was really slow. And she would be standing there helping people, and there'd be this long line of people, and she goes, I have to give this person a hug. And she'd run around the counter and go give a person a hug and come back and help them. And really, that's why people came into our store. But Gemma told me, Beth, I have 2 speeds, slow and slower, just so you know. And so as a business owner, it is helpful to know what personality type you and your employees are. You may be frustrated by the amount of energy your employee gives, but that may be all they have in them. Some people may go, 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 which is great in an employee, except sometimes they don't know when to stop. They both have their pros and cons. So the other thing about the Enneagram is the heart, head, and body centers. So 3 types are in each one of these centers. So one personality may be a head center, meaning they are heady people, or they spend a lot of time thinking. There may not be as much action in them, but they can figure things out. There are personalities that are feeling centers, and they look at the world through feelings. But you get them with a head center who run from their feelings, could make for an interesting interaction. So there's a lot of different nuances about the head, heart, and body centers with the Enneagram. And the other one is control. There are some personalities in the Enneagram that have to be in control. And there are others that love it if other people take control and make the decisions. There's another way to complicate. This is another way to complicate things, especially if you are the same or similar, where one person butts heads with another control person and it creates conflict. On the other side, if a personality doesn't want to be in control, no decisions are made. Have you ever been in a situation where you have a whole group of non-controllers and nobody can make decisions on where to go lunch? Oh, it's fine with me. Wherever you guys want to go, it's fine with me. So it's helpful to know a person energies, head, body, or what level of control a personality is comfortable with. So I might refer to these nuances as I go through my talk. So the next thing is perspective. This is how I look at life. So through focus and perspective. Focus, has anyone had stinking thinking or analysis paralysis where you just, things go through your head over and over and over? You might be mulling over a negative scenario in your head over and over. So if you focus on the negative, it will not change. A quote I like is, what we focus on persists. So pay attention to what you're focusing on and how that is impacting your life. So perspective, as for perspective, I tend to be a positive thinker, but sometimes I can worry a little about things that in the end work out really. When I worry or have a negative emotion, I try and get a new perspective that will move me out of my worry. For instance, my husband, I'm going to refer to this a couple of times as an example. My husband has started a deck project, and he pretty much took the whole deck off because as we started tearing it apart, there was a lot of rotten pieces to it. So we had to take it all apart. So I would be up at night worrying about him. He would go out and walk on the joists, and he'd be on these tall ladders. And I was just worried that he was going to hurt himself, fall off the deck or whatever. And it's one level up, so it has some height to it. But I try and change my perspective and remember that my husband's a monkey. He loves to walk up and down ladders, and he walks out on those joists without holding on to anything. And he's fine. His balance is fine. So I just tell myself, he's going to be fine. He's really good at it. So I kind of change my perspective on that. So a quote that's a really good on perspective is Wayne Dyer, who said, change the way you look at things and things you look at change. And I really just love that. So pay attention to your focus and perspective about situations and dilemmas. And if you can, think of a different, more uplifting perspective and maybe give yourself a little more positive focus to move into a better place. So some of my tools I'm going to talk about is it a Beth problem? And one is, what is your favorite color? Leave it better than you found it, putting the boxing gloves down, and inner counselor tool. So the first one is it a Beth problem? And I use this all the time. So I use this phrase a lot when a problem crops up, say, with another person. So for example, if I'm in a conversation with a friend, let's say, and I say something that hurts their feelings. Have you guys ever done that? I know some of you might have. So I will evaluate whether I said something valid or they are just sensitive, or maybe it was a mean thing to say and I could have said it better. I look at it as a Beth problem or a friend problem. So when it's a Beth problem, I'll apologize or try and learn from the situation. If what I said was not hurtful, but something my friend maybe really needed to hear, then it may be not a Beth problem, but something my friend may need to look at. So I kind of, when interactions or things that come up that are, disturbances, I'll ask, is this a Beth problem? I really need to learn from this situation. So the Enneagram lesson here is how we deal with our problems can have a big impact as to what Enneagram type you are. Some people run from their problems because they lead with their head, not their feelings. Some people are action people and want to fix somebody, but it really is not their place to fix them. We all know as much as we want to. We cannot fix other people, especially if they don't want to be fixed, right? So the types that want to try and control other people's lives always lead to resentment and pushback. So the other thing I want to talk about is, what is your favorite color? Well, mine is blue and green. I don't know what your colors are, but really it could be gray. And nobody's going to come up and say, my favorite color is gray, right? Maybe some people do. Some people might like the color gray, but I really, the gray color is something that we pay attention to. So not many people have this color as their favorite, but we live this color every day. And I'm not talking about being blue or sad. I'm talking about whether we have a black and white thinking or gray mindset. Black and white thinking can look like this. So all or nothing. Believing that if a goal or task cannot be completed entirely or perfectly, it is not worth pursuing at all, instead of recognizing the value of partial accomplishment or gradual progress. Right or wrong, asserting that there is one correct answer or approach to a situation or problem, not considering alternative perspectives or solutions. Never or always. Have you ever said never? Never say never, but we do say it sometimes. I'll never do that, even though I just did it. So success or failure, believing that anything less than perfect is a failure, not recognizing that progress and learning can be valuable outcomes. So many times we want life to be black and white, but really it's mostly gray. From the article in the website called Healthline, it says this thought pattern, which the American Psychological Association calls dichotomous, which I didn't really believe. I just never knew there was a name for this, but it's called dichotomous, or polarizing thinking, is considered a cognitive distortion because it keeps us from seeing the world as it is often is, complex, nuanced, and full of all shades of in between. And if you want to read this article, there's the website. You may not be able to see it, but I'll share it at the end. It's in my chat. So it's a really interesting article. Therefore, a lot of times life is gray, or at least it should be, even though we want it to be black and white, but it's not. So the next thing I want to talk about is leave it better than you found it. As you may know, this is Boy Scouts motto. If any of you camp, you may know that the Boy Scouts motto of leaving the campsite better than you found it. On the website called the Singing Scoutmaster, they describe the phrase, leave it better than you found it, like this. It's more than a good idea. It's a scout principle, a promise, and a way of showing gratitude to the outdoors. When we hike away from a campsite, trail, or rest stop, we leave behind more than footprints. We leave behind an example. So I like to remember this when I'm camping, but also I live my life like this as well. Maybe I can look at how I can pay it forward or make someone's day by going to the grocery store for them when they are sick. And knowing this group, I believe the mountain women in business live by this code for sure, with excellence. I'm kind of singing to the choir here, but it's always a good reminder. I love bringing it up, not for something we have to do better, because I believe many of you do an excellent job at this, but maybe acknowledging the good we do in our community, family, and friendships. But we can always do more, and I always remember the old adage, people remember what you do for them, but they really remember how you make them feel. And I really love that. Doing good in the world helps people feel good about themselves and the people around them. So if anything, my hat goes off to this group for all the great things that you do in our community and for people. So good job, ladies. And the other part of this is I also like to stay on good terms with all people. This is great for my Enneagram because I'm a peacemaker, and I don't like conflict. So I try and stay on good terms with all people. But even if I don't like a person or I'm done with the toxic personality, I still try and leave it on good terms. Then if I run into them in the grocery store, I don't have to hide in the produce section. I can just say hi and then move on. So this is how I leave the campsite better than I found it, by putting out kindness wherever I can, even when it isn't deserved, and trying to be on good terms with all people. So my next tool is putting the boxing gloves down. So these days, and I don't notice it as much as I did a number of months ago, but I've noticed how fast people get defensive. I have found myself in the past getting defensive easier than I used to. I will find myself feeling like I have to defend something I said or did to someone after they had made an offhand remark. I lash out, and the other person is left with a bewildered look on their face, and they finally confess that they are only kidding or that it wasn't meant to hurt my feelings. Essentially, I got defensive really fast. So I told myself that I need to put the boxing gloves down, that most people are not out to get me. Can I let people challenge my ideas? Of course, I want people to tell them what they think. I just need to learn to not take it personally and to put the boxing gloves down. So the last tool I have is probably one of the most important, and it's called the inner counselor tool. And I use this a lot when I'm journaling. I'm a big journaler. I have journaled all my life ever since been in middle school, and my nieces and nephews are going to have a great time reading through my journals when I'm gone. But I used to go to a school called the University of Santa Monica, and it was, I got a master's in spiritual psychology. And I flew out there every weekend and did this program. And so this was one of the tools I learned from that program. And so my teachers at USM told us that we have all the answers inside of us to get through situations. Even though sometimes we don't think we do, we do. We know ourselves better than others know us. We know what our buttons are that we don't like when they are pushed. We know what makes us happy and what disturbs us. So I use this tool when I'm looking for answers or when I'm trying to work through an inner disturbance or I need to make a big decision. So this is how it works. So you're doing this in a journal. So what you do is you write down the dilemma and you go into detail of how you felt, who was involved essentially, or write down whatever happened or what's going on. So here's an example that I've used. And I kind of probably had this when I was working at the convenience store. So here's the dilemma. And I'd be writing this down. I have a that really isn't doing the work I want them to. They're late all the time, even though I've asked them, I can't see it. Hold on. I was asked them to be on time. Their work is less than par, even though I've shown them over and over how I want it. I really need someone to talk to, but I just can't seem to get the courage up to bite the bullet and let them go. So then Beth will say, so there's the dilemma. And then Beth would say, I feel stuck with this employee and I just don't know what to do. They aren't what I really want in an employee, and it is too much work to try and get them where I want them to be in their productivity. Inner counselor, what would you like to see happen ideally? So then Beth would write, I feel as though I would like to let them go, but they really need the job. So I feel bad letting them go, but that is really what I'd like to do. What would it look like if you did let them go and you had to hire another person? Well, I know it would be a huge inconvenience on my part as I would need to do their work as well, but I really want to find a better worker for me. I can get on the stick and ask all my clients if they know someone who may be a good fit for the job before I let this employee go. I think I could find someone pretty quick. What about letting them go? How does that look for you? I feel I've given this employee or individual a lot of chances, and even though I feel bad, I just need to move on. I will talk to them tomorrow and get the ball rolling. It really is what I need to do, even though it is hard. Then the IC says, sounds like this may be a hard choice for you, but it seems like the right choice. Maybe you can write down what you want to say to the employee before you talk to them, so you are clear how you want to say it, and so on. So you guys probably have the idea of how that works. So anyway, I use this all the time. And the job of the someone want to say something? No? Okay. The job of the inner counselor is to ask open-ended questions, use encouraging words, add inspiration or positive conversation, and this all will reduce the inner critic. So that's the 5 tools that I have. I also like to talk about metaphors. Nature has great metaphors. And the first one I want to talk about is the great blue heron. So near my house, we have a few ponds, and in the spring and the fall, we have two blue herons that come and to these ponds to find food. As many of you know, if you've seen a blue heron, they're just standing there like a statue, kind of like this picture, staring into the water, waiting for their next catch to swim by. And I was driving by and thinking how much patience they must have to stand there like a statue for a while until they get what they need or they eventually move on. So I thought the blue heron was a great metaphor for patience. So many times I'll find myself in a situation to wanting the situation to happen like I want it to. In other words, I want to control it. But if I remember to just wait and be patient, many times it'll work out itself out. And more times than not, it works out better than I would have ever imagined. And another example of that, going back to the deck project, I thought about ways that I think my husband should build the deck, even though I know nothing about building the deck, and he does, even though I think I would know more, not really. So one example is I was up worrying one night about how on the SWAT where we were going to need to lift a heavy beam up and then screw it in. Well, I wanted to say something about how what he needed to do to make that safe so he wouldn't hurt himself. Maybe he could do this, maybe he could do that. And, but I thought, no, I thought to myself that I'm going to be like the blue heron thing and just be patient. Lo and behold, the next day, our neighbor brought over a scaffolding and they used that to put up the beam, and that was totally safe. So I was like, well, I'm glad I waited instead of making a mess trying to tell them how to do it, even though I didn't know what to do. So the other one is a river. The river is a great metaphor. So for example, you can stand on the banks and let the world go by and not engage, or you could jump in a raft and take control of your life. What kind of river do you like? Do you like a calm, peaceful river? Do you like the fast-moving river with lots of white water and rocks? Do you like using a canoe or a kayak or maybe even an inner tube? And there are rivers that are big enough to have barges, and you know how slow barges are and how they, maybe that would be good. So there's different ways to look at a river. So next time you're standing by a river, just remember these metaphors and think about how that relates to your life. So the other thing that I like to talk about with the river is the leaf in the river. So this is about letting people who are controlling or control situation to let them. So I used to have a singles club, and we were on a trip to Cancun, and there's 4 men and 4 women. And we were going to go to these islands off of Cancun. So we had to get on the bus, and then we had to get on the ferry. So all of us got on the bus, and there was a woman on the bus that said, I know where we're going. You guys just follow me. And we're like, okay. So we're going on the bus, and then it stops, and we all get off. Well, it was the wrong bus stop. So we were going to have to get back on the bus. And so we were all standing there. Well, the women were standing over by the bus going, oh, is this the bus? I don't know. Maybe we need to look at the sign. Maybe we need to ask someone. That's the bus driver. And they were going on and on. They were driving me crazy. And I look over, and there are the men standing under a tree in the shade. So I walked over to them. I said, what are you guys doing over here? And they go, we're just a leaf in a river. You just tell us where you want us to go. And I thought, I'm standing over here with you. That sounds wonderful. So, anyway, I love that. I love that analogy of a leaf in a river. But anyway, the next thing I want to talk about is the metaphor of the ponderosa pine tree. And as Amy knows in our neighborhood, and many of us know, that there's been a lot of pine beetle around the area, and we had to cut down 25 trees. And some of these trees were huge. And well, they weren't that huge. I kind of accepted. But anyway, I just gained such a healthy respect for the ponderosa pine tree after having to cut down all of them, because they are so strong. They're strong, and their root system goes down, and they create a really nice foundation for them to be able to survive and grow as tall as they do. By the way, that's a picture by our house. Do you recognize it, Amy? But anyway, um, so anyway, one of the things that I did to visualize with the Ponderosa Pine is I had a lot of friends around me and family that were struggling and having a lot of problems. And I just visualized myself as a pine tree, Ponderosa pine tree, being strong and in the middle of a like a hurricane with all of this stuff happening around me. And I was just going to stand strong and be there for support and love for them, but try and be as strong in my action as much as possible. So, in conclusion, a couple resources that I want to encourage you maybe to read is a book called Let Them by Mel Robbins. And there might be some people here that know that book. I read it. I gave it to a friend. She passed it on to a few people. I told other people, and they're like, oh, yeah, I know that book. So, this is kind of the hot book right now. And it's really, really good. The other one is What If Everything Went Right by Mindy Maudlin. And Cindy Denson knows Mindy, they're friends. And so she could probably tell you more about Mindy, but I just love this book. I'm reading it right now. I haven't finished it. And so I just love that. So, as we are human beings that are very complicated, and for those of you who are struggling, acknowledge feelings, figure out a way to work through them, and try and not live there for very long. Our emotions come and go, and anger, resentment, jealousy, sadness can eat us alive inside if we stay there a long time. And we deserve to feel good. So let me know if you need any support. If anyone wants to learn more about the Enneagram, give me a call. I do typing sessions and a consultation. So does anybody have any questions or comments? Or maybe you have some tools you use to get through each day? So I'd love to hear from you.
Well, I'm going to jump in there. Is that Sue Ryan? Sue, are you trying to? I don't know who it was. So Beth, I'm just going to say, I love your journaling. I do journal too, but I've never journaled to myself.
Yeah.
It runs in my head all the time. Like, what should I do? How should I handle it? But I think journaling it and writing it down like you did with a conversation should be helpful. So
it is helpful, and it's amazing what you'll come up with as an answer to your, solution to what you're going through. You're going, oh yeah, that would make sense, and yeah, try it. It's really powerful.
Well, and it's just seeing it in black and white. It's just like needs to be done. So let's see. This is Sue. But so Sue said she sent a message. She said yes, she opened up her mic, but she wasn't trying to talk. So Sue joined.
Okay.
Good morning, Sue.
All right.
Does anybody else have any thoughts? Or I think Audra. Oh, Gail does.
Yeah, what I'm really struck by, and thank you so much, Beth. That was a lot. Some of those ideas I've thought of before and I've forgotten them. So it'd be great if there was some handout with some bullets about the things you covered. But what I really was struck by is the community. Like this doesn't exist. We don't solve this stuff ourselves. We either have that, what did you call it, the internal counselor? There's like being in communication with somebody, even if it's an imaginary somebody, but being a community is really where I find the most strength. So I really want to applaud this group because I see it. I see you guys connecting in a way that really nurtures your ability to self-realize. Yeah.
Great.
So congratulations.
Yeah,
I want to just tag on to that. I think it's, what a wonderful community. And I would really encourage everyone to read What If Everything Went Right. I met Mindy and her husband years ago when they were living in Evergreen. And what an inspiration. And her husband was really instrumental in getting volunteers behind me in terms of my dreams.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'll talk to you later about that, Beth. But yeah, now that you're bringing back these memories. So thank you very much, Beth, for the presentation. Here we are in community and just imagine what we can all do together and with one another. So